On a crisp autumn morning, with the sun glistening against the skyline of New York City, Edward Grayson, an illustrious billionaire known for his shrewd business acumen, settled into the plush leather seats of his sleek black Bentley. Today was not just any day, it was pivotal. With a $10 million deal hanging in the balance, he felt the weight of the corporate world resting squarely on his shoulders. Edward had built his empire on calculated risks, cold determination, and a fierce commitment to his vision. But sectors were shifting in tech, and this deal had the power to solidify his company's dominance for a long time. He glanced at his watch, its intricate hands ticking away the precious minutes. His trusted driver had called in sick that morning, forcing Edward to take the wheel himself. Despite being accustomed to a life filled with luxury and convenience, the absence of his usual chauffeur made something twist uncomfortably in his stomach. But Edward was not one to be deterred by setbacks. As he pulled out of the city and onto the long stretch of highway, adrenaline pumped through his veins. The Bentley hummed to life, a fierce machine built for speed and power. Yet, as he sped through the empty roads lined with trees shedding their fall leaves, a strange tension began to brew in the pit of his stomach. He navigated the twists and turns with precision, his mind racing ahead to the meeting that awaited him. The skyscrapers slowly faded into the distance, and soon he was surrounded by expanses of farmland and patches of dense woodland, a stark contrast to the steel and glass of the city. Just as he began to relax, savoring the ride, a sudden sputter interrupted the tranquility. The engine coughed, then shuddered violently before coming to an abrupt stop. Alarm bells rang in Edward's mind. He reached for the gear shift, attempting to restart the engine, but to no avail. A series of frustrated expletives escaped his lips as he scrambled to assess the situation. He stepped out onto the sunlit road, a gust of wind ruffling his tailored suit. The Bentley stood there, a magnificent beast now lifeless. Edward popped the hood and peered into the intricate machinery, his expression a mix of confusion and irritation. Cars were supposed to be reliable, especially a car of such stature. The silence of the empty road was engulfing, echoing in the growing void of his impending failure. Pulling out his phone, Edward found the signal bar flickering feebly, a reminder of how isolated he was. Panic surged through him. He attempted to call for roadside assistance, but frustration mounted as the call dropped. He was alone, stranded, a towering figure of corporate might reduce to a man void of options. Seconds turned into minutes, an unrelenting reminder of the ticking clock in his mind, counting down the moments until his meeting slipped away. Edward paced beside the car, glancing down both ends of the road, hoping for a savior, a vehicle, a person, anything to offer hope. But the landscape remained stubbornly barren. He felt like a castaway, marooned on his own barren island. Just when despair started to claw its way into his heart, a rumble broke the quietude. The faint roar of a motorbike approached, growing louder, interrupting his thoughts like a bolt of lightning through the quiet sky. As it drew closer, Edward's heart leaped with cautious hope. A young man clad in a delivery uniform came into view, riding a battered motorbike that had seen better days. As he dismounted, his bright eyes sparkled with curiosity and readiness. "Sir, everything okay?" he asked, his voice steady and calm, contrasting with the storm churning within Edward. "Not exactly," Edward admitted, frustration leaking into his tone. "The engine just died, and I'm running out of time." "I'm Jake," the young man said, his expression sincere. "I used to be a mechanic. Maybe I can help." Edward hesitated, assessing the boy's youthful countenance. Could this teenager really assist him? But desperation clawed at him, and he had no other choice. "All right," he replied, stepping aside as Jake approached the Bentley. What followed was a dance of expertise, as the young delivery boy rolled up his sleeves and bent over the engine. Edward watched with skepticism that soon melted into awe as Jake worked with confidence and skill, clearly in his element. Minutes ticked by, each passing second weighing heavy on Edward's mind. Jake, however, seemed unfazed by the pressure, focusing solely on the task at hand. After several critical adjustments and a final flourish, Jake stepped back, wiping his hands with a rag. "Try it now," he urged, his tone filled with quiet confidence. With a flick of the key, the Bentley roared back to life, the engine purring smoothly. Relief cascaded over Edward like a wave crashing against the shore. "You've saved my day, Jake," he said, stepping out of the car, his tone infused with genuine gratitude. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Jake shrugged off the compliment modestly, but accepted a generous tip that Edward pressed into his palm. As he pocketed the cash, Edward found himself wanting to know more about this kind soul, who had come to his rescue during a moment of desperation. "What's your name?" he asked casually. "Jake," he replied, smiling but looking slightly embarrassed. He was clearly not seeking recognition or reward, which only deepened Edward's respect for him. With the time now slipping through his fingers, Edward climbed back into his car and sped off, racing towards the meeting that would potentially secure his company's future. Though he successfully sealed the deal that day, the memory of Jake lingered in his mind. A quiet example of kindness and grit in a world dominated by self-interest. A month passed since their remarkable encounter on that lonely road. Jake, meanwhile, continued his days as a delivery boy, navigating the bustling streets with a mixture of determination and weariness. He lived in a modest apartment with his mother, trying to make ends meet with the meager income his job provided. Life had thrown its challenges at them, and while Jake had once been a prospecting mechanic with dreams that gleamed like fresh paint, hardships had forced him to settle into a life he had never imagined. Days filled with deliveries turned into weeks, and soon he had almost forgotten about the wealthy stranger he had helped. However, the struggle persisted. His mother's ongoing medical treatments weighed heavily on him, and despite working tirelessly, the bills piled up, leaving little for essentials. He wore a brave face for her, always managing to reassure her, "We'll figure things out. We always do." But the truth gnawed at him. He was worried about their future. One evening, as he sorted through a new batch of delivery packages, a knocking echoed through their apartment. Jake looked at his mother, who raised an eyebrow with curiosity. "I'll get it," he declared, heading towards the door. When he swung it open, he was met with the last person he expected to see. Edward Grayson stood before him, impeccably dressed and radiating an aura of authority. For a moment, Jake stood dumbfounded, his mind racing to process the sight. "Mr. Grayson," Jake stammered, disbelief coating his words. "May I come in?" Edward's voice was warm, bearing no trace of the cold businessman he often appeared to be. Jake stepped aside, and Edward entered the modest home that stood in stark contrast to the billionaire's opulent world. He glanced around, taking in the decorated walls adorned with family photos, and the worn kitchen table that held the symbols of their struggle. Edward's demeanor softened as he realized the weight of their daily lives. "I've been meaning to find you, Jake," he began, his tone purposeful. "What you did for me that day. You didn't just fix a car. You saved me from missing one of the most significant meetings of my career." "I was just doing what anyone would do," Jake replied, scratching his head, still trying to understand the situation. Edward chuckled, his eyes reflecting his admiration. "Not everyone would have stopped to help a stranger like me, especially in a luxury car like that. What you did was extraordinary." He reached into his briefcase, revealing stacks of cash neatly organized inside. Jake's jaw dropped as he regarded the money in disbelief. "This is my way of thanking you," Edward continued, undeterred by Jake's shock. "That meeting I secured, it brought in way more than I expected. You played a crucial role in that success, whether you realize it or not." Jake stepped back as if the cash could vanish on command. "I can't take this, sir. It's too much." With gentle firmness, Edward placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. "You're not just taking money, you're accepting recognition for your kindness and skill. You didn't expect anything in return that day, and that's why this is important." It was clear the billionaire cherished the sentiment far more than the material itself. Jake's mother, who had been observing silently, felt tears brimming in her eyes. "Mr. Grayson, we don't know how to express our gratitude," she said tremulously. "You've done more for us than we could ever imagine." "I want to do more," Edward replied, turning his focus back to Jake. "I need someone like you on my team. A talented, diligent individual with a strong work ethic. I'm offering you a position at my company, with training and a salary that matches your potential." Jake's breath caught in his throat, the gravity of the offer settling around him like a dream, waiting to be fully realized. This wasn't just about money. It was an opportunity to prove that he could rise above the limitations life had imposed on him. Are you serious? Jake finally voiced, his tone tentative. Dead serious, Edward confirmed, his smile broadening. You've earned this chance. You have no idea how your kindness impacted me that day. Jake exchanged glances with his mother, her hands clasped together, her eyes wide with a mix of hope and disbelief. I'll do it, he finally uttered, newfound determination lacing his tone, a burgeoning belief in himself igniting as he accepted the life-altering offer. Welcome aboard, Edward said, extending his hand for a firm shake, a gesture signifying not just a job offer, but the beginning of a partnership founded on mutual respect and trust. In the days that followed, Edward arranged everything for Jake to step into his role at the company. The initial tour left Jake in awe. Rows of state-of-the-art technology, well-organized teams bustling with energy, and a corporate atmosphere filled with potential. He had barely adjusted when Edward's faith in him began to blossom. As weeks turned into months, Jake adapted to the fast-paced environment, often finding himself sinking deeper into the world of tech and innovation. His early mechanical experience proved invaluable. He brought fresh ideas and perspectives to the table, earning respect from the coworkers who initially viewed him as merely a delivery boy. Through hard work and dedication, Jake flourished. Edward became more than just a mentor. He was a catalyst for change, a shadow of encouragement. The lessons Jake learned under his guidance transformed him, both professionally and personally. With each project he completed, his confidence soared, allowing him to amuse himself with the thought that he could achieve anything, despite the hardships behind him. With the initial $60,000 Edward gifted him, Jake managed to pay off his mother's medical bills, relieving the strain that had burdened them for too long. The gratitude in his mother's eyes, once filled with worry, now sparkled with pride as she watched her son climb new heights. One evening, as Jake sat in his office with papers scattered around and a cacophony of excitement buzzing through the corridors, Edward stopped by for an impromptu visit. Jake, I must say, you've come a long way, he remarked, leaning by the door, a satisfied smile lighting up his face. Jake looked up, a wealth of emotions spilling from him. It's all because of you, sir. You believed in me when I doubted myself. I can't thank you enough for this chance. Edward shook his head. You earned it, Jake. You just needed someone to see that spark within you. The underlying bond that had developed between the two men stood as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, forged not through circumstance, but through kindness and mutual regard. Through laughter and challenges, they had formed a partnership stronger than either had anticipated. As months stretched ahead, Jake continued to demonstrate his prowess, gradually making a name for himself in the company. Each presentation, each completed project bore the fruits of his labor. Life began to flourish in ways he had only dared to dream. However, amidst all this success and growth, Jake never forgot the day it all began. The lonely road, the sight of a stranded billionaire, and the simple act of kindness that changed everything. Edward remained an ever-present figure in his life, guiding him, supporting him, and encouraging him to chase his aspirations. For Edward, helping Jake wasn't merely an act of gratitude. It became a reminder of the importance of compassion in the relentless pursuit of success. In a world often overshadowed by greed and ambition, their story echoed a powerful theme. Sometimes, life-changing encounters stem from the unlikeliest of places. A delivery boy and a billionaire, bound together by fate, kindness, and the courage to act when it mattered most. As Jake looked toward the future, fully embracing the path he forged, he was reminded that sometimes, it only takes one act of kindness to transform two lives forever. No longer bound by his past struggles, Jake carried forth the lessons learned, ready to face the world head-on, fueled by the belief that he could achieve greatness, not just for himself, but for all those who dared to dream. And thus the story ends. Yet their journey continued, a testament to the beauty of faith, the strength of kindness, and the profound impact one person can have on another's life.